Welcome everyone to another Connect event. We are super excited for this event to learn from our wonderful guides. I appreciate you all being here. I am Dr. Dave Hester, and I'm joined by two wonderful women who are going to support and help us learn about the fun and loving, as well as sometimes challenging times of parenting. So let's give everyone just a moment to file in. This is a packed event. Thank you so much for sharing the word, to your community, to our member base. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We appreciate all of the support. Share this with someone if you believe it may be supportive for them. So let's start. I'm going to start by introducing the wonderful ladies with me. So first, starting with Lara. She has been the head of the legal department at the University of Fortaleza. In addition to her administrative role, she also serves as a professor of business law and international agreements at the university. Her career has also included work with nonprofit organizations, where she's gained extensive experience in mediation and negotiation. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Dave. It's a pleasure to stay here one more time and share my experience with the other colleagues.
Wonderful, wonderful. And also with me is Carolyn. Carolyn is a certified life guide, nutritionist, and advocate for early onset dementia patients. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, as well as their caregivers. Her professional career includes being a political advisor to the UCSD Connect program, as well as a college professor, TV commercial actress, and administrative assistant. She supports those wishing to improve their mental and physical well-being and lifelong happiness skills through healing, mindfulness, nutrition, and physical activity. Thank you so much for being
here. Very pleasant to be here. Thank you.
So we've all worked together in this space before during these Connect events. So I'm just going to jump right into the questions because I believe that we have a lot to talk about. We're talking about parenting, and I want to come to you first, Lara. And just talk about strategy. When we're working through this thing called parenting, we have to sometimes plan. So what strategies do you use to ensure the quality time with your children, despite everything that we have to do with our lives?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to share with the other participant that I have two kids and a dog. So it's important in my husband, of course, but it's very important to establish one routine with them. And for example, it's important when I have my lunch break at this time, I have to do the homework with my son. And so for him, it's important. So at this moment, the moms will do the homework with me because he is only 8-9 years. And so it's important for them know that we have sometimes only with them. So the first step is just to prioritize and schedule the times with them, in my opinion. Yeah? Stay present in that time that we will do the homework with the son. You just do the homework. It's impossible to do the homework and watching videos in the cell phone, answer some WhatsApp or message. No, at this time, your prioritize is going to be stay with your son. And at 9, for example, I have my daughter, it's a teenager. So normally, before she's go to the bed, we have one time only to conversation about what happened at school, what happened in his life, what happened in his relationships. It's important to know what happened with their life, yeah? And so, in my opinion, we need to separate some time to stay only with them. And each son has one important moment, only you and the son, you and the daughter. Yeah, it's important for this. And for example, if 1 week it's so busy for me, what I'd like to do, hey, let's cook with me. Let's stay with me in the kitchen. Let's help me to do the dinner. Let's help me to make the lunch, something like this. Yeah, because it's some moment important to stay with them and not to speak about work and other things, only with them. I think so. I use these strategies to have one better time with them.
Absolutely, because you're setting up the intentional time. You're being purposeful,
Additional
saying, "Hey,
time. Yeah.
come on and hang out with me." Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Carolyn, one thing that I mentioned I was going to talk about earlier, and I want to come to is you were married for 45 years before losing your husband to frontotemporal dementia, and you also have two grown daughters. Who you're a grandmother, and I know you can speak to that a little more. And I want to give you some space to do that. But I want to ask about the intersection of promoting that family unity and building life skills, by maybe even engaging kids in household activities, because you have grandchildren now and you've also been a caregiver. How important is teaching and kind of training to do those active daily living skills or even daily activities to support others? How important is that?
Essential, I think, for raising happy, well-rounded children. Yes, I have a granddaughter who is 24 and a granddaughter who is going to be 5, and two grown daughters, one 44, I believe, and the other 39. So yes, my perspective is like across generations now, and it's been very interesting. I support Laura in everything she said about intentional time. And I think I would even expand that a little bit to answer your question, Dr. Dave. I think it's really important to, when a child shows interest, if at all possible, pause, listen, and respond. So many times we just don't have time, but really a child has very, limited attention span. And so I think when they are engaged, take a 10 minutes and just work with them, or be with them, be present. Sometimes that's all it takes, just 10 minutes. But the act of putting your attention, moving your attention from whatever you're doing to them when they are interested, I think is really important. And as far as teaching them the life skills, I like Laura's idea. That's what I think really works well, is when engage children in the household activities, give them things that they are capable of doing, and let them figure it out. Let them figure out how to make a salad. Just give them the steps, help them wash the lettuce. But I think the key is to give them the joy of exploration, so that these are not just tasks, but they're interesting. If you can engage children in the chemistry of cooking, fabulous. You can, when you're cooking, you're also teaching measurement and reading and math and nutrition. So if parents can engage their children in just little daily tasks with full attention, without criticism, I think it goes a long way to building self-esteem and confidence in our children.
I'm glad you mentioned confidence, because confidence can easily be altered, shattered, broken, changed, because we may not have time. You mentioned that earlier. I can remember so many times when I was a child, and I said, "Hey, why is the sky blue? Why is water wet?" And because my parents may not have had the time at that time, they said, "Because it is," or because
Yeah.
it's just made that way.
It's
And
true. Yeah.
and now we have to be curious about it. So coming back to you, Laura, like what are some traditional practices from your upbringing that you've chosen to continue, and what are some that you've chose to discard?
Yeah, it's very interesting, because I think so this word confident can make one relation with this question. Yes, Dr. Dave, for example, the time of my grandma, my grandparents, at this time, I think so, a long time ago, the children don't have choice. You have to do this because it is. And normally, if the kids do make something that the adults don't agree, the adults hit him. And I think so nowadays, the things change about this. The kids would like to argue, would like to defend their point of view. And I think so. These things happen because the setting are changed, the world are changing. Yeah, the world changed. And for example, in my grandpa time, it's more authority. Yeah, nowadays we can realize it, that the parents need to stay confident with their kids, to establish one communication has to be friend, and I think so this thing changed when you imagine one time along the life. Yeah, and I think so this is one thing that I can mention, that I think in how my mother was grow up and I'm growing up, because I think so it changed a lot. But one thing that I would like to transmit for my kids is they study is the key. Sometimes when, oh mom, I don't like to study, it's so hard, but I'd like to encourage them to study more and separate one time to stay with them. Because I think so it's one thing that you can give for your kids. It's you can increase their capacity of thoughts, their capacity how to develop themselves. And so it's important for me, and I think so nowadays, to encourage the kids to be more, I think so, more curious, to study more. I know we have a lot of cell phone, video games, a lot of things that can nowadays, that the kids can, oh, it's so boring to have studying, to get studying now. But I think so we need to establish one time to stay in front of one screen, to the time to play, the time to watch the videos, the time to stay in front of one TV, and the time to study. And I think so for me, one thing that through a lot of generation is the study. It's a key to live in one better position and to be happy. Because I think so it's important for us to keep our brain full with the things that we would like to do, that we would like to develop. And I think so it's so important to study and be curious with these things.
It reminds me of the beginner's mind, being curious, kind of having that child's like mindset or state where we're curious about it. Now I want to just call out the generational divide in the room. We're all from different generations, and we've experienced different proclivities depending on the generation we were born in or that we are supporting. And one thing that we joked about before we jumped on was where my daughter was with her grandmother, and she talked about how her grandmother doesn't always allow her to share her opinion as much as we do, because of the generation that we're from, and the generation she's from, kids were seen and not heard. And nowadays it's more open. So I want to kind of share the same questions to you, Carolyn, just about your upbringing and what you've brought from what you've learned from your parents, and maybe what have you left behind and learned.
I came certainly from a generation where children were seen and not heard. However, I had rather an unusual mother, very different parents. My father was, I'll tell you when I want to, or, you should be quiet, don't bother me. My mother was a teacher, and my mother took every opportunity to find a teaching moment. So I think that when I was brought up, curiosity was celebrated. I'm sure that all the stray animals and I can't even imagine what she went through with the beetles and the bugs I brought home. But my mom always took time to stop what she was doing and celebrate what I was doing. If I found a spider that was very interesting, she would encourage my exploration of the spiders. We'd go look it up. And when the encyclopedias, we didn't have of course, internet at that time. But I think that's a really important thing that has always been in the back of my mind, that difference between my father shutting me out completely and my mother saying, go explore. Tell me what you think. Give me your opinions. Growing up, I believe that society taught me to be quiet. You know, be a good girl, be quiet, do what you're told. I think we've changed a lot in our thinking, and now we recognize that our children's opinions, their thought processes are really important. And if we are going to raise children who are independent and prolific and happy in their 30s, we have to start very, very early in engaging them and letting them see that their thoughts are important, the way they treat other people are important, and that just showing generational support to the generations before them. And thank you, Dave, for what you did explaining to your daughter, grandma was raised in a different time. What a wonderful gift to give your mother and your daughter. You've opened so many doors there. Now, your daughter now sees, oh, she has something to teach grandma. And she has an understanding of things change. Generations change, things become more or less important, but she has the big picture of, I'm going to listen and understand and be thoughtful about how she interacts with her grandmother on a different way. But when she's but as she goes through life, I think that gives her the ability to pivot, to realize when you're with different people, with different cultures, with different upbringing, that being very aware of their circumstances and their thought patterns is polite. And it opens up conversation instead of closing things down.
Thank you. I want to say, first off, thank you for that. I'll say also really quickly about my mother. She's learning too. And she appreciates that. She's like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. Just, live the way I live. And this is actually in line with a question that came through the chat. I remember being a kid and mom's on the phone. I need something. And like most kids, we're egomaniacs. We only think of ourselves. And so I'm like, I need what I need. So it doesn't really matter if you're on the phone. And the question that came through the chat was, what's a good response if your kids are interrupting an adult conversation? You're on the phone, and kids need your attention when when you're on a phone. All of a sudden, they really need it. How do you respond to that? And I want to hear from both of you. Like, how would you respond in that scenario? For me, it's pretty simple. The person on the phone, whoever that is, even if it's the president, I'm going to have to ask for a timeout. Give me a pause for a moment. I know some people may be like, wait, what are you talking about? But kids and our family are important. And even the smallest curiosity that they may have does need to be addressed. They need to feel like their thoughts, their presence is warranted and wanted. And so even though I'm asking for a pause, timeout on that side, I immediately go to the kid, say, hey, I'm currently on the phone right now. Please give me a moment. We've agreed that if I'm on the phone, this is a signal that I'm not available unless it's an emergency. It's just an emergency. And if the kid says, no, it's not, depending on what they think is an emergency, then we can go on. So that would be mine. So I'd like to hear from you, Lara. How would you respond to that scenario?
Yeah, in the first time, of course, normally we can realize it, what the kids would like to share with us. But in the first moment, I say only with symbols that, hey, now I'm the phone. So it's important to answer the phone. But for example, if my kids continue, hey, mom, something like this, hey, could you hang on me 1 second? And I speak with he or she. Now I can't at this moment, and I say for them what moment I will listen them, because it's important. Hey, I'd like to be listened now, but it's important for them to know when they will be listened, when I have time to listen them. So let's wait in a few minutes. I'm ending this call, and after that, I will listen all the things that you'd like to share with me. It's important for them to know this because, for example, okay, but my mom said it's very busy now. So when he can listen what I would like to share with her. So it's important, in my opinion, it's important to say for them when you will have time to listen. Yeah, and normally it's very interesting and it's very lovely. For example, when I'm here and I establish one routine, and for example, one time to study, the other hour to play video game, the other time to play with friends, something like this. And for example, if they would like to attend something, they call me, hey mom, I can tend my schedule, I can tend my agenda today. It's important for them and for us to know what happened with them. And sometimes I say yes, another time I say no. But another time if I'm in a meeting, for example, and I can answer, after this I can go back, return your call. And sometimes when he called me several times, they told me, hey mom, I'm sorry because I'm called for a lot of time, but I would like to ask you some questions, blah blah blah, something. No worries, because they need to know that we need to work to be one better life for them. So they need to have the comprehension about this. I'm not here because it's a hobby for me. It's a pleasure to stay here, then stay with them. No, I'm here, I'm working because I'd like to give for them one better life and establish more conditions to stay connect with them in one better moment. Yeah.
Yeah, make a better life for them. Absolutely. Carolyn, what about you? How would you respond?
Well, this is a basic life skill that kids have to learn. You know, there's courtesy is really important in any interaction. So I always tell my family, you know, we're a team. We support each other. We are here for each other. But within that box, we need to understand others' needs and be polite and considerate. I'd handled it much the same as both of you did. You know, first, see if they quiet. Nope. If it really seems important, ask the person on the other end of the line to give me a moment. I can turn to my child and find out if this is an emergency or not. If it's not an emergency, yes, Laura, do the same. Give me 5 minutes. I will get back to you. We can discuss that now. But that's a skill that they need throughout their lives. You know, this is something they need to use with their friends, their family, in business. When they have a job, they need to know that expressing their opinions, there's a time, there's a place, there's a way to be polite. You don't interrupt somebody else generally, you know. So I think when we're working with even with our very, very young children, very, toddlers, it's age specific. You know, you can't expect a 2-year-old to understand mommy's going to be, ready in 5 minutes. So as the children go, you start slow, you start with little expectations. The expectations grow, but Laura, you talk about having the conversation with the children. This is really important. Have the conversation. Explain, this is my job. I need to be, I need to be present when I'm speaking to my coworkers or whomever. When I'm with you, I'm present with you. But you need to be polite and give me the space to finish. And I will do that for you. When you are busy, child, I will try very hard to give you the courtesy of letting you finish before I interrupt.
That's wonderful. And it makes the children feel safe and that they're heard and appreciated, but also setting some strong boundaries going forward, that all of your requests may not be met in that moment. You have to also show patience. It's a give and take that you're teaching kids early on. So I want to come back to you, Carolyn, for a real quick follow-up around the strategies that parents can employ to build that self-esteem and independence in their kids, because that can be easily shaken when we have to correct kids. You know, if you have to tell them that, hey, this is not the proper time, because you mentioned age specific, you know, telling a kid 5 more minutes and they're 5 more minutes is 20 years to a toddler, you know. So how do you balance that, not shaking their confidence, but also setting strong boundaries?
Well, I think building confidence in children, it is rather instinctive, but it's also something that deserves a great deal of thought. So I would say, age appropriate, start giving them tasks that are appropriate to their age, and give them the autonomy to finish the task. So you're making dinner. You can pull a chair up to the sink and show the child, here's the lettuce. We're going to wash the lettuce. Show them how to wash the lettuce, and then let them do it. Let them do it without criticism. Now, the second time you wash the lettuce might be the time to say, oh, look, we could get all the dirt off. If we, you know, look, so giving the child something they can do it well, praise them for their efforts, and give them the joy of success. And you talked about when you have to correct them. Correcting can be not punitive. You can correct someone with more information, with a slightly different way of doing it. You know, hey, you washed the lettuce. Wow, look at that. You did a really good job. I appreciate you got almost all the dirt off of it. Okay, let's go back and take a look. Yeah, here's one that has still a little bit of dirt. Let's scrub that off. You know, give the child the chance to grow and expand. Now, when they're older, you know, they're going to have had all these little successes. And so when they do have a disappointment, they don't do well, here's an opportunity, because they've had all these successes in the past. You say they're disappointed in how they did on a test. Okay, but look at all the times that you've done well. Now here's the teaching. What did you do when you did well that you didn't do when you didn't do as well? Yeah. So everything can be a teaching moment if we just take the time, just the nanosecond to reframe things and take a look at another side.
Yeah, it reminds me of errorless teaching. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. Errorless teaching. It's in the ABA world, in the for children and adults on the autism spectrum. It's an excellent tool because it's doing exactly what you're saying, where you're correcting without it being punitive. It's also encouraging. It's like, yes, okay, that didn't work. What can work next time? And I know we were talking about phone calls and being on calls and having children interrupt. But Lara, I wanted to come back to you and ask a question about staying present with your kids, you know, after a long day. Like we talked about that scenario where you're on the phone, you're trying to do work, you're being asked for things by your kids. Let's say it's the end of the day. How do you stay focused and present with and engaged with your children after a long work day?
Yeah, I think so. We have some circle in our life. Yeah. And for example, we need to do one exercise in our mind. For example, when we left the job stay there. When you come in at home, all our mind, all our thoughts is going to be about this. The time, for example, it's 6 p.m. and time to finish the work. So I'm going to home, or if you work at home, we need to stop and focus your mind, your thoughts, the things that you need to do at home. And in this moment, I would like to answer one question in chat that Jaime told. Any tips on how to connect with granddaughter that does not communicate? And at this time, when you have one long day work, what I made. For example, normally the daughter stay in her room, and I just go there and be quiet. Hey, can I go here? Can I stay here with you? And stay in silence. And one time, and you do this every day at the same time. can I stay here with you for only 5 minutes, only 6 minutes, whatever, but you have to stay there only to stay there. And one day, when the silence will be broken. And sometimes, hey, would like to ask something? You have something to tell me? And we can establish one communication. But in the first time, when you don't have the communication, only stay there. Because the daughter needs to know that you are available for her. Yeah. And I think so, after one long work day, the kids, the daughter, the son needs to know that you have time to stay with them. Yeah. And stay in silence can be one way to create new opportunities and create one new communication with you and your daughter. Yeah, I think so. It's one thing that I would like to do. And stay in one activity lesson. It's one tip that we use a lot in mediation and negotiation. Imagine if you are the other person and have one activity lesson. Are the most important tips when you have to solve some issue, when you have some dispute to solve some problem or something that you'd like to do one mediation or negotiation. And imagine our relation needs to be mediator, needs to be solved, because each one has one personality, one thinks in different points of views. So to stay there in the first moment in silence for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, and we will see day by day this time will increase, and you have for a long time to discuss in whatever you want. And after this silence, you can run some time only to have one talk together, only to have one lunch together, but step by step. If in the first moment, if you don't have any communication, only to go to her room and stay there in silence and ask him, can I stay here with you for a few minutes? I think so. It's one good tip to start one communication.
Well, they asked the right person. You have the experience in mediation, and I never thought about sitting in silence as a way to connect with someone that you're trying to communicate with. Carolyn, any thoughts on that? Especially, I'm interested to hear from you as well, because you are, you're connected to two different generations. You have it's a 24-year-old as well, so you have two layers of adult children, so to speak. So how would you work through that non-communication period?
I love the silence, because I think silence can be so nurturing. I'd like to just touch on something that I think was really helpful for me. My husband, one time, I was probably distressed over one of the children acting up. And my husband pointed out, he said, well, what's our goal? And, we sat down and we talked, what is our goal for these children? We want them to be happy, productive, confident adults. We want them, when they're 32, to be fully functional, happy adults. Now, if you work backwards from that, some things become really, really evident to me. And that's that every moment of that child's life is going to lead up to adulthood. And that's paying attention to what do we want them to have. We want them to be confident and have communication skills, to be able to move easily in different groups of people. All the things that parents want for their children. That doesn't just happen. Children need to learn how to work together and to communicate inside the family and outside the family. So even those moments of silence, I think we giving space for thought process for our children, not interrupting, and and like Laura said, just holding space with them, being with them, sometimes can be the most important thing you're going to be able to do that day. So I think that kind of is the foundation of where I think about what's parenting. The foundation is, how do you help your child build the skills that will serve them as an adult, as a happy, functional adult?
You talked about reverse engineering, or you didn't use that language exactly, but you said starting from there and working your way back from the age of 33, and everything's leading up to adulthood. One thing that I don't believe is always talked about as much is how parents can prepare children for, like, not only lifelong happiness, but success within their life. So I'd like to hear from both of you, or maybe some ideas or tools that you can instill into a child or as a parent to help them on that journey towards happiness and fulfillment. Hard question, right? But
No,
an easy answer.
I don't think it's a hard question. I think,
okay, I love the challenge. Go for it.
okay, well, you want your child, okay, so the confidence. To build confidence, you need to have success. So find ways to give your children small successes. When my children were quite little, we were building a 47-foot trimaran in the backyard and remodeling a house. The walls were down. The horse was sticking his nose through the wall. So the dog was walking from the front yard through my house to the backyard. My kids were in a construction zone. But we would find little ways for them to help. And so they're part of building the house. They're part of building the boat. Now I have a daughter, two daughters, both my daughters, the 44-year-old and the 25-year-old, or whatever, 39-year-old. The 24-year-old is the granddaughter. Well, anyway, they have now torn apart houses, rebuilt houses. You know, I'm thinking, okay, they grew up watching their parents succeed at this, but they also got to help. So, and we need to teach them empathy, but we need to model it. You know, so much of what our children learn is what they learn from us. So when I have disappointments, it's okay for the kids to see that I'm disappointed. If I'm happy and successful at something, it's okay for the kids to see me happy and successful. You know, and it's okay to talk about things with children, like, okay, I planned this. However, so now that didn't work, but they have to see me, or they have to see me. I think it's helpful if the children see you as somebody who confronts difficulties and, you know, overcomes them, but with a smile. If they see us handling situations that are difficult and handling them kindly and thoughtfully, that's what they're going to learn. At least that seems to be what has worked in our family. And I think this is one of the reasons that it's so important to have a guide, you know, because when our children are little, we think of just that moment. And a guide can help us, at least the guides have helped me, kind of visualize what do I want for the future? How can I get there? From someone who's already been there and done that, and has a kind of a global view instead of a very narrow view of parenting.
Nice. Lara, same question, but I want to go in like a little bit of a different direction and just hone in on how you are preparing your children for the realities of balancing work, life, you know, their future life and family. What are you modeling for your kids?
What I'd like to do normally when they are through some situation, I would like to share with them what happened with me and what happened with their father, because it's important for them to see that some things very similar happened in the past. And sometimes when you share what happened with you, it's important to them to realize it, that they aren't the only people that are through some different things, some challenges, yeah. And it's important for them to realize it, that some bad things happen, that they need to through, they need to achieve another point in their life. And for them, it's important. If for example, if I am in a bad day, they can help me to stay better. So normally, I think that the parents would like to be superheroes for the kids. But I think so it's important to them to know that we make mistakes, that we are not perfect. And for example, we need to share these things for them too. Hey, today I'm so pissed off. My job is not so good because happened something, blah, blah, blah. And you need to realize that when you are one adult, probably you have the same thing to do too. You can see that we have good person and bad person in your environmental work. And sometimes I like to share for them, especially the teenagers, something like that. Hey, mom, that girl don't like me anymore. The other boy don't like me anymore. And hey, this happened in whole your life. It's not only at this time. We will see when you will be working, you have some colleagues that you like more, another one that don't like you, and you need to keep them go ahead. It's important to them to know how to treat your feelings and your emotions. Yeah. And I think so. One thing that I would like to increase that thing for them, it's share a story. And normally it's show for them that I'm not perfect. And I need them to be better. Yeah. And I need them to be better. To be real, yeah, to be real. So sometimes, hey, I'm not, hey mom, come to my room. No, I'm so tired, come here. Yeah, sometimes we need to see for them that we are tired, that we don't want to cook at this time, so let's do something for me. Yeah, and I think so.
Do something for me.
Yeah, do something for me. Make me a sandwich, something, some easy things, but make for me. Because normally all the time, hey mom, prepare something for me. You can stay here with me. No, stay here with me. I'm not so good today. And I think so it's very important to them to prepare for the other situations. We aren't superheroes. They need to know the life outside home. It's very hard. The people don't like to spend time to teach you to do some or to do something at work. You need to know. For example, nobody would like to spend time to teach you how to do something on Word, Excel, something like this. You need to prepare by yourself, doing your course outside the work. Nobody in the company would like to spend time to teach you how to organize the Word, how to do something on Excel. No, you need to be fit. So in this situation, we need to show for our kids, our son, daughter, that we are not perfect, and share with them that the world are very hard. And I think so. Somebody asked, what's our goal for a parent, our children? I think so. All the parents would like that your kids are good person, have good jobs, and have a health family, health relation, and without a lot of alcohol, drugs, something like this. I think so. What we parents like for our kids is to be adult health, mental health, physical health, with good jobs, have the capacity to afford the essential things for their life, and to have health relations. The people that they will have some relation during the life has to be healthy, because good relation affect one good mental health and one good physical health too. I think so. It's my goal.
Oh, no question it does. No question it affects mental health, I mean, physical, and it, dovetails into, there was a question that came in, talking, and I'm going to kind of conceptualize this question first. I believe it's about cultural differences and also just responses. So it's,
Yes.
yeah, so it's talking about how to teach children, some children who may respond with sarcasm, that they may have observed from others, knowing that that may be interpreted as disrespect outside of the family. If that's an internal family structure that's acceptable to do, to respond with sarcasm, how do you teach a kid that it's not appropriate in all settings? I'll just quickly say that the best way to teach is learning, and learning is putting into real life situations. So my father actually put me into because I'm a military brat, so grew up with various levels of people from different places all around the world, and he purposely put me into a group where I was not of that culture, and I had to learn how to appropriately communicate in that culture, and the way that I communicated in my culture was a little bit different. And I'm specifically talking about stuff in my culture that could be disrespectful to others. And so it's important that we acknowledge that sometimes the kids may not learn from us, even though they always do. I know that sounds like a double speak, but it's true. They learn from others, even though we may have said the same thing. We say one thing and then they're like, I don't hear that, father. And then someone says the exact same thing and they're like, that's wonderful, I'm going to do that. So it's that whole duality that we are models for our kids, yet at the same time, they are going to learn from their peer group. And it's just up to us to help them understand what choices they're making within their peer group, or how they're behaving or presenting. How do they want to show up? Do they want to show up in a in a healthier way, or do they just want to be messy? Well, I want to say to both of you, before we start to close, I wanted to ask one more question, but I wanted to give you both just an opportunity to share any quick methods that you both came across over your time of raising wonderful kids and instilling not only values but goals. But what's one of those secret tips that you're just like, hey, this really works for me as a parent when it comes to supporting my child? Let's start with you, Carolyn. What's something that is really important to you, or really absolute part of parenting?
Pretty simple. Listen mindfully. Listen mindfully and be completely present when you speak to your children, as completely as possible. We all have distractions, but I think that showing respect, understanding, being collaborative, all the things that make for good human interaction, work with children. Listen to your kids.
I'll add, you can also apply that to adulthood too. If you're giving someone your full attention and you're really listening, and that's the biggest gift, or the best gift you can give to another person. So how about you, Lara? Any other thing, anything else that you're just like, this really is important for me throughout my parenting journey?
I think so. In the days that we live nowadays, it's important to don't work a lot of. Yeah, it's important. What I mean, what I'm saying this, for example, you need to have time during the week, not only the weekend, with your family. You need to do something together during the week. For example, go with your kids for one sport, stay there only to watch them, or practice some sport together, or cook something together. But I think so it's very important to do something together. And for example, if you work 3 in the morning, after in the night, you don't have time to do this. I think so you need to avoid some money. You need to dismiss some time of work and increase your time with your family, because family are relation. If you don't have time, and relation need time, yeah, need time. I need to spend time with you to be your friend. I need to spend time to prepare one cook, and the cook needs to be good for it, yeah. If I don't spend time, how can I establish one communication? How can I establish one health relation? So my tip is spend time with your family, spend time with your kids. You need to work hard, but you don't need to work all the day, all the day. Yeah, all the day, I think so. Sometimes in the busy days you need to work, but we need to separate one time during the week to stay with your family.
That's beautiful. So listen. So this is what I'm putting together, just from my perspective. Listen, but also spend time. And
Yeah.
both of those are equally not only important, but valuable to the upbringing of a kid, but then also the cohesion of the family. And I'll add one last thing I think is important, and that's to have fun. And that means sometimes being silly. You know, if you are a serious person, going on the other side, or if you are a silly person, going on the other side, kind of having fun with the spectrum of emotions that we have as humans, and experiencing them together as a family. So having fun even throughout the challenges, the grief, the good times, the bad times, just deciding that we're going to have fun together, no matter what. Of course, you know, there are times where you may need to be serious as parents. So we're not saying go out here and party all the time, but definitely have fun when you are partying with kids, because they have the ability to show us things we don't know, or things that we've forgotten over time. So listen and spend time with family. So thank you so much to everyone. I want to also thank our guides in the chat who have also been supportive. The questions were excellent. I'm going to run this back as a kind of tool to understand how to better show up as a parent, because even though there's so many books on parenting, there's no real books on parenting. Like it's a continuously changing phenomenon that we have to adjust to. Just about every week, there's something new that a parent has to adjust to with their children. So I'll leave the last words to you two ladies to say to the group, and we'll move to close after that.
Laura?
Oh, only my case, I'm just here, and I'm really, really appreciated to stay here. It's a pleasure for me to stay in LifeGuides and share my experience with all of you guys. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
I would say thank you, Dr. Dave. And I just like to mention to all parents out there, you need support, you know, so being a parent is not easy. I think that it makes it easier when we can talk to each other, share experiences, and, you know, relate what's going on in our lives. And Dr. Dave, I love having fun, because even in a difficult situation, if you give yourself a moment, you can kind of turn things around and and have a lighter side. So mistakes don't need to be mistakes. They just need to be a way to learn. You know, so, and just to say, talk to your friends, talk to your family, be open about your trials and tribulations with children, because they do come, but also give yourself a lot of grace. Parenting is a long, long haul job, and enjoy it. I would say enjoy.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.